I'm Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar Today, and we're here with Geoff Felsher of Raezer's Edge cabinets, amplifiers, pedal boards, pedals, just about everything else under the sun for guitar reproduction. That a pretty fair statement?
Yeah, just about. I think so.
You want to add something to that?
No, not in particular. Just maker of all kinds. Musical stuff, I suppose.
Very cool. For people that don't know, you guys make, speaker cabinets, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. You also make amplifiers. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Pedal, you got a couple of pedals. You got an overdrive pedal and reverb pedal, which for jazz players would be the first two pedals that probably anybody would need or want. So let's talk about stuff. I mean, if people want to know about the history of the company, they can go on your website and they can read about the history of the company. You got a lot of products, in various categories, and they can see all that on your website. And the URL for that is what? What is your website?
It's Raezers, spelled Raezers -edge.com. RaezersEdge.com.
And everything is right there to see. And I believe you got pricing up there and the whole status. So you guys first got into the business building, basically tuned imported cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to talk a little bit about tuned imported versus open back cabinets, because you make both.
Sure. Yep.
Can you identify for people the difference between what they can expect if they plug their amp into a tuned imported cabinet versus an open back cabinet?
Yeah, sure. As kind of simply put as I can make it, I would consider a tuned imported closed back cabinet is going to have a much more tighter, focused, kind of dynamic sound, a lot more low end response in a general sense than an open back, which is going to be a lot more like, you would expect open, airy, a little more high end and bright sounding stuff. The tuned imported stuff tends to favor a lot of the jazz players and what they're looking for tonally versus open back. But, over the years, we've kind of learned that there was a lot of guys that really prefer the open back versus the closed and ported. So we kind of adapted along the way and figured out how to do both as well as we could.
Well, for people that are interested in this from a really, technical point of view, it has to do with resonant frequencies and a thing called teal small parameters. But if you're interested in why a ported cabinet or a tuned cabinet and what the philosophy is there and how those things are done, just Google teal small parameters, and that'll be a good starting point. And then open back. You want to talk about the open back a little bit or a little bit more? Want to add anything to that?
Not in particular. I think that if you like the sound of more of a tube like sound, I think the open back is probably going to be more favorable to that kind of a sound, but not in particular is in specifics as to anything open back.
How did you decide to go ahead and get into the open back cabinet?
Honestly, we do so much custom stuff, more so now than ever, really. And just kind of as the years went on, there was just more and more requests for open back cabinets. And rather than just do that on a order by order basis, we decided to come up with a design that seemed to be conducive to, what most of our kind of target player demographic is looking for in an open back cabinet and speaker selection and all of that. So it was more so just demand driven. People were asking for it. So rather than make them ask, we would just offer it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? So in coming up with the dimensions, because, an open back cabinet is a tuned imported design as well. It just doesn't look like one. Because there's a certain size that the speaker is mounted into a box of a certain size, and the size of the box does affect, the performance of the cabinet, and then the size of the open back, like some speaker cabinets, there's less of a port, if you will, in the back than others.
Mm-hmm.
So did you just basically do that by ear, or how did you decide what you wanted it to sound like?
Yeah, it was honestly, it was a lot of trial and error, making things different sizes and shapes, and just kind of trying it over a period of time. And did everything from oval cutouts on the back panel to standard kind of 2-panel back system that you might see, various sizes. And yeah, it wasn't a highly technical or scientific process. It was more so building it over and over again, and kind of settled on this seems to be the best. And like you said, the cabinet really does make a difference in terms of size. And for the open back stuff, we kind of erred on the side of oversized versus undersized. That seemed to be a little bit bigger and more robust of a sound with the oversized cab.
Now, not for PA speakers, okay, but for guitar speakers specifically, I can think of there were several people that made cabinets that were done technically like by the book, correct. These things on paper were going to sound like magic, just garbage. And then I've seen other guys that just kind of glued it together, and let's put a little here, put a little there. And, the Marshall cabinet, that 412 cabinet, that was kind of a happy accident. I mean, nobody knew the interference effects of those 4 speakers in that thing was going to give I'm getting a little technical here, but it was going to give the sound that it was going to give. And now it's, like the de facto 412 cabinet.
Right.
So, and you also do custom shop stuff.
Yeah. That also, generally just kind of grew out of demand again. People asking, I own one of the Stealth 12s, or one of the, original cabinets that Rich designed years ago. And we're just a fan of the sound, and generally came back to ask if we could do a 6/8 or something, completely random, or, the open back stuff. So I got, closer with the suppliers of different Tolexes and all that cosmetic stuff. So we can do a wide array of different stuff. I've got I don't know if you can see it back there, but there's
I see it. I saw it back there. What's going on back there?
Bright green alligator skin with a black Vox diamond grill cloth.
I love it. I mean, that's, it's definitely, if that's what somebody wants, that's what somebody wants. But, so obviously you got into the business making cabinets, and the Raezers had you got into the business making cabinets, and then you branched out in amplifiers, and you make both varieties, if you will. You make solid state amps and tube amps. So let's talk about your maturation into the amplifier market.
Sure. Well, yeah, so many years in the jazz world, specifically within the speaker cabinets, was primarily just talking to jazz players all the time. And for so many years, we were so often, and still are, paired with acoustic image amplifiers, which are great. That kind of became our jelly to their peanut butter in a lot of ways. And just by a happy accident, also locally where we're from, we're based here in Waukesha, Pewaukee area, just a little bit west of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I happen to know a guy that was really well versed in just about every amplifier circuit that you could imagine, and had spent years servicing everything. So it had access to a brilliant mind as far as amplifiers are concerned. I knew enough to be dangerous, and I knew what our demographic of players were looking for in terms of tone and sound, and what different varieties of amps might function like and for their style of playing in the jazz world. And kind of teamed up with that friend of mine, and we were able to kind of grow organically with the help of some local players here, and then a couple groups on the interwebs that sent amps out to some players and got a lot of feedback over the course of a year or so. And the solid state stuff really grew that way for us. And the tube stuff more so That is, again, kind of de facto expertise of Roger, our engineer here, and what, coming from a knowledge base.
So it's really interesting. I mean, for the longest time, people equated solid state amps with jazz players, clean, if you will, and tube amps with rockers, because they wanted the overdrive and distortion that they get. But I got to tell you, I'm seeing it all over the page. I'm not saying so many rockers are playing solid state. I'm not seeing a lot of that, but I am seeing a lot more jazz players, lining up with combo tube amps, for example. I'm kind of I go both ways. I've got tube and solid state. I love them both. I have a tendency to kind of be that way. I kind of play I play with a solid state amp most of the time these days. And if I want that tube thing, I put an overdrive pedal in front of it and make it a low gain overdrive, and I get a lot of what I want. But that's not the same as the tube amp. How does it come down with you guys? How the customers, are you selling tube amps to rockers? Are you selling tube amps to jazz players? Are you selling solid state? I mean, do you have any feel for that at all?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything, to be honest. Most of the players that I'm talking to on a day-to-day basis are still jazz players that, we're a small outfit, and I think we're still primarily just known in the jazz community, not for lack of trying, branching out into blues and more rock stuff as well. But, a lot of companies, there's a lot of crossover, I think, with, blues or even flat top acoustic players and using solid state versus tube. So for us, it seems to be a pretty good mix, and also kind of waves of a bunch of solid state stuff we'll sell, and then we'll get a wave of a bunch of tube stuff that, it just doesn't seem to be a whole lot of rhyme or reason, but it seems to be pretty well split between the two of them, more so lately.
So you're sitting there in what looks like a wood shop to me.
Yeah. Almost everything is built in-house, not necessarily in this particular shop. There's another satellite shop that a lot of the electronics get done in, but on the tube amplifiers, we are making everything down to the chassis themselves, bending the metal and painting everything. So much of almost everything that we do is we try to do in-house as best we can, to really maintain that entirely hand-built type of process.
That's really, really good that you've got total control, and you're right there. And then talk to me a little bit about your pedals and pedal board stuff. What's going on there?
Well, that the pedals stuff, again, kind of defers back to my engineer Roger, and what he kind of had already in the hopper before joining the team. And that goes back some years. That particular overdrive pedal, the turbo drive, I think that started originally in production maybe in the late 90s, early aughts. And he sold quite a few of them. This is before it had anything to do with Raezer's Edge. So when he kind of brought it on board here, I was more so looking to kind of revitalize it and bring it back, because it really is a pretty sweet overdrive pedal. And the Canyon Reverb is unique in that you've got several different kind of parameters that you can adjust, not too dissimilar from so many reverbs that are out there, but it is unique in and of itself comparably to others like it.
Very cool. Are you a player yourself?
Yeah, try to be. These days, it's
we all can say that.
Yeah. A little bit of jazz background, not much. Most of my playing these days locally here, I play in a band, and it's vintage classic rock and roll, that kind of stuff.
Some of my favorite stuff. Some of my absolute favorite stuff. Let us see a little bit more of that cabinet behind you. What's going on with that cabinet? What's going on there? What are those? What do you got? Show us what you got there.
Well, this one is it's one of our standard tube amps that you'd find on the website. It's called the Astra. It's a true Class A amplifier. It's about 20 watts. This one built specific for a customer with this crazy alligator skin, and it's got a Celestion Alnico creamback in it. Really simple, elegant circuit. You know, it's basically, you know, the same thing, close as you can get to plugging your guitar into the speaker. Overdrives really nicely.
And people want to look up Class A versus Class AB versus, you know, Class D and so forth and so on. I suggest they do that. You'll understand what we're talking about when we talk about Class A and why Class A is what it is, and so forth and so on. So we're talking about that's the way that the amplifier reproduces the signal coming into it. So it's something for people that are geeked out on that kind of stuff. There's a ton of information on the internet. So yeah, keep going.
The one next to it is you know, kind of a classic acoustic image Claris amplifier built into a 6/8 extension cabinet combo kind of operation. So it turns the head into a combo. And this one is just one of our standard Luna solid state heads.
So what does that weigh? That little guy?
Weight 4.5 pounds, I think, something like that.
Excellent. And how many watts does that put out?
That is 700 watts at 4 ohms.
700 watts at 4 ohms. Did I hear you say that right? 700?
Yeah, it moves a lot of air.
That's the difference between digital and tubes, folks.
Yes, yeah.
That's the difference. And again, if you want to look up topology, you can check all that out. Everything. Hey man, it's great meeting you. You know, we met back at the at the Rocky Mountain Archtop Festival a couple years ago, and you know it's coming up in September. You know that was 3 years ago.
No, it's so crazy.
2019 that was.
Goes by so fast. I plan on attending this next one coming up.
Oh, please do. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that's the Rocky Mountain Archtop Festival, by the way, for all those who are out there. So Geoff, man, I appreciate you guys. Anything you want to add to what we talked about?
No, just that I'm super accessible. If anyone wants to talk about an amplifier, cabinet, anything along those lines, I'm really easy to reach, and you can get my cell phone on the website if you wanted to. And
pretty easy guy to talk to, you know.
Don't hesitate.
All right. Hey man, thank Bob Bakert for Jazz Guitar Today with Raezer's Edge, and Geoff Felsher, who is the guy, the guy at Raezer's Edge. Hey man, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Bob.
Appreciate it, man. See you later. Bye-bye.